that what's a daytime for everyone else, it's a nighttime for a yogi. And whatever is a daytime for a yogi, it's a nighttime for everyone else. So in other words, yogi is someone who's weird. Yogi is quite different. And one way in yogi is different is in the following way. Usually people get discouraged and frightened and feel uncomfortable when calamities are brought to attention. Even a potential situation where calamity may occur is undesirable very often to think, to talk about, or to contemplate. Now yogi, well, this morning I had a breakfast like almost every day. And I was hanging out with a few monks, and they were talking about earthquakes and this is tsunamis and you name it. This is Javida Prabhu, one of our senior monks over here. When did you move down here?
89.
89,
July, yeah.
Okay. And back then, and even before then, there was a lot of talking about California being earthquaked off into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about that too, and more we talked about it, I noticed how everyone was becoming energized and encouraged and bright face, and like, this is weird. This is weird, I thought. So why would the yogi, and often that is, I hung out with different types of yogis, and they often get encouraged by the prospects of calamity. Isn't that weird? That's very weird. And this is so because the tendency is when the physical structure collapses, then people all rush for shelter to the metaphysical stuff. And that is always so. Almost always. Every major calamity that I can recall throughout my life, it has always been so. For example, on September 11th, actually, the following days, churches, mosques, temples, you name it, people were gathering everywhere, taking shelter of metaphysical things. Metaphysical things. Okay, that didn't sound right. Metaphysical things. No problem. And then, of course, as they rebuild their physical structure, they sort of recede back or return back to their physical existence, leaving the metaphysical shelter they took advantage of previously back behind them. Now the thing is that the metaphysical realm is a natural realm for the soul. So when the soul finds itself in a metaphysical realm, it feels great. So even though one might be in a great physical calamity, but it then has some or other triggered the soul to go for metaphysical stuff, then that makes the soul, creates a very pleasant experience for the soul. And I remember when I was a teenager, I said this a few times, and I never told anyone what I did, but I did something really bad, really, really bad. And police was looking for me, and my parents were looking for me, my friends were looking for me, the people of the town where I grew up and where I did the thing were looking for me. And that was it. I was lost, I had nowhere to go, nothing to return to, and I said, well, whatever. I wandered off into a mountain, and I found this beautiful location under a tree, and I said, I'll just sit here and I'll meditate. I won't eat, I won't drink, I'll just meditate until I die. And weird enough, that was one of the best experiences I ever had in my life. Perhaps because he survived, I don't know. But even before they discovered me, it was one of the best experiences I ever had. And I sat there for God knows how long. So why? Because as I lost all the physical security, as it was taken away from me, I took firm grasp, shelter of the metaphysical nature, and experienced great joy, experienced freedom. It's bizarre that in this kind of a very restricting, very otherwise uncomfortable situation, one gets to feel so much freedom. So that's what I experienced. So what I'm trying to say, it's not necessarily that one has to lose physical shelter in order to take shelter of the metaphysical things, but usually that's what triggers very powerful embracing of metaphysical things, loss of physical support. So therefore, even despite this great calamity, you end up with a great experience. So that's what yogi experiences. That is the reason why yogi, when hearing of material calamities, experiences great sense of freedom. Weird, but that's how it works. Just the remembrance of a calamity triggers this yearning of the soul, which then in turns produces great pleasure from within. And then on top of it, the yogi also experiences pleasure when there is physical pleasure. So it's a win-win situation. Very good reason to travel the metaphysical path of yoga. Because then within both situations, whether it's a physical calamity or physical prosperity, the yogi experiences great joy. Might be a little controversial, but I know when was it 2008 when our real estate market collapsed, and there was a lot of economic discomfort for a lot of people, but I just felt that America made a huge spiritual progress. Not that a yogi would ever wish anyone any kind of discomfort or calamity, misfortune, but if misfortune is what it takes to trigger fortune, then yogi will embrace it. So anyhow, what I was trying to say is that being a yogi is a great deal. It's a great thing, because in both situations, whether it's physically prosperous or physically discombobulating, it's both good for a yogi. Otherwise, you experience the duality. You're so burning with desire to embrace the physical prosperity, and you spare no pain at avoiding physical calamity. But as a yogi, they both come great.